The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a platform and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. These Best You EXPO talks are recorded in front of a live audience in a live event. We highly recommend that you focus on the message. As they say, what you focus on expands. Enjoy. Jane Jackson. The title of her talk is Releasing Money Blocks, Your Pathway to Abundance. Jane Jackson, aka the Energy Releasing Expert, is passionate about sharing her knowledge and techniques for releasing energy blocks around money, bringing focus and clarity. Enjoy this talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to my talk today. I'm going to be talking about releasing money blocks, your pathway to abundance. So I hope you've all enjoyed the expo so far. Can I just have a show of hands for anyone here who needs money? Okay, so that's most of us, because the reality is we need money to pay for food, to pay for shelter, to buy clothes, to have the odd one or two luxury items. Do you all agree with that? But there's also another reason that we need money. So how many of us here today are coaches or therapists, or you might be healers, or you might be wanting to do that kind of thing? So there's a number of us here. So we also need money so that we can provide a service to those we want to help. Because if we are busy worrying about money all the time, then we're going to be putting out the wrong kind of energy. We might be so focused on trying to make ends meet that we're not paying attention to working for our clients. Would you all agree? Okay, so what we will be covering this for the next 40-odd minutes is we're going to be looking at some of the common symptoms of money blocks. What we really mean about money blocks and how and why they develop. We'll be looking at the three different aspects connected to blocks, and we should be looking at a method. I'll be introducing you to the method that I use to start releasing them. And for some of you, I have already spoken to, I use an emotional freedom technique or tapping. And I'll also be covering what you can do next. So in case you're wondering, my name's Jane Jackson. And here I am, up until the age of 7. They didn't have coloured photography in those days. So anyone here whose baby photos are all in black and white as well? I'm not the only one. Now, the reason that I'm showing these photos is because when I have an extreme emotional reaction to something, I'm not responding as the 50-something-year-old that you see standing here, the wife and mother of 2 grown-up children, the woman who went from being a cleaner one day to a project manager setting up the UK's first service user-led, run and managed crisis house. But I am responding as any one of these children. So it might have been the child who was abused by her father on a regular basis, or it might be the child who was completely and utterly devastated that her best friend from infant school left the country and I never saw her again. Or it might be the child who used to dream about running away from home and escaping the abuse every single day of her life. Or it might have been the little girl who was so terrified she wet the bed every night. That's who's responding when I have these strong emotional reactions. But I like to think that this is the real me. The one who is terrified of heights, but faces her fears by going over a zip wire over the longest swing bridge in New Zealand, or by jumping out of a plane to do her very first skydive. So anyone else here who faces their fears by doing crazy things like jumping out of planes? So we're going to be talking about money blocks today. Okay, so why money blocks? Well, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about money blocks was because when I first had this dream, this idea of becoming a coach or an emotional freedom technique, I encountered so many blocks that it took me actually 5 years to get on and do it. And along the way, I kept being made redundant. The third time, I thought, you know what? The universe is trying to tell me something here. But what we're doing, when we talk about money blocks, what we actually do is we're trying to rewire the programming that we've encountered in our lives. So how many of you are familiar with the Apple products like the iPhone and the iPad? Well, Apple have this feature that when something goes seriously wrong with your iPhone or your iPad, you come up with this error message that gives you the option to restore it back to factory settings. Now imagine that your brand new iPhone has encountered this serious error, and you've got this message that's come up, and it's giving you two options: restore to factory settings or cancel. But you look at that and you know you've got two options, but you want to try something different. And you've heard about the law of attraction stuff. So you're going to try and do that with your iPhone, because you don't want to restore it to factory settings because you might start losing some of your data. So you send positive vibes to the phone. You set yourself a goal that in 2 hours' time, your phone will be up and running. Or you create a vision board for what your phone would look like when it's all fixed. You start to emotionally engage with your goal of having your phone fixed and up and running. You feel the joy of what it would be like to connect back to Facebook. 2 hours later, you go back to the phone and there's still the same error message. And that won't change until you've actually click that button that says restore back to factory settings. And that's what we do with emotional freedom technique. All it is doing is restoring your connection to your relationship to money back to factory settings. So before you encountered all those beliefs, all those negative events that have happened in your life connected to money. Is that making sense? Okay, so a lot of the time we go through life and we're not even aware that we have these blocks around money. So if you're not aware of it, what might be some of the common symptoms? So you might find that talking about money makes you feel really uncomfortable. And if you're in the service industry, you might find that actually asking people to pay for your services is really difficult. Or you might find it quite challenging to actually put a price on your value or your worth. And I was having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday, and he said to me, do you know what? I have absolutely no problem making money. I'm just terrified that it's going to stop, or that I'll lose it, or that someone's going to take advantage of me. So money blocks can come up in many shapes and sizes. And another common one is that no matter how hard you work, you still find that you've only just got enough to pay the bills, to cover your expenses. You never have the money to spend on those big dreams. And another one that I've encountered in terms of some of the people that I've been working with is that they find that as soon as they see they've got enough money in the bank, to cover their expenses for the next 3 or 6 months, they pull back from promoting their services. They stop selling because I've got enough. So, how and why are these money blocks holding you back? Well, a lot of the time they are unconscious. And I was listening to Wayne Dyer the other day. Have you all heard of Dr. Wayne Dyer? And he was talking about our conscious and unconscious thoughts. And I was really surprised that only 3 to 4% of our thoughts are conscious. So 3 to 4% of our thoughts are within our own awareness. The other 96 to 97% of our thoughts come from our programming, our core beliefs. So that's quite shocking. So it's our internal programming that is running most of the game for us. So in relation to core beliefs and how they are formed. So our mind, as we go through life, our mind collects and stores all the information and the data that we encounter in life. So all the memories we have, all the events that we've been to, we store that information in our minds. So if you imagine that we've got this imaginary filing cabinet in our brains where all this information and data is stored, and whenever we encounter something new in our life, if we had to go trawling through that filing cabinet to see if, have we encountered this before? How should I respond? How should I react? Well, it's going to take quite a long time, and there could be quite a delay in knowing how to respond and react. So our brains are actually quite clever, and they've made a shortcut for us. So up until about the age of 7, we form our core beliefs. So everything that we have encountered in life up until the age of 7 is stored in our core belief, and that is our go-to place for knowing how to react and respond to what we encounter in the world. Hence those pictures of me as a child. Is that making sense? So imagine for a moment that, so if it's your younger self that's running the game, and you've encountered quite a lot of challenges as a child, this is the one that sets off the automatic responses, the fight, flight and freeze response. So I'll give you an example of how this has affected my core beliefs, has affected my relationship with money. So I was quite a young single mother, and when my baby was born, I was really good with money. And I was working full time, and I managed to support myself and my baby. And then I got married, and I handed all financial responsibility over to my husband, because that's what you just did in those days, or so I was told. There was no question about it. He was the man. He had the control of the finances. Now, the problem was that my ex-husband wasn't so good with money. And I can see someone saying, yeah, I know that one. So by the time our second child came along, we were in so much debt, I'm still paying it off 20 odd years later.
If you're interested in sharing your story, sharing your dreams, sharing your ideas in the largest personal development platform, the Best You Expo, sign up today. Go to www.thebestyouexpo.com or send an email to info@thebestyou.co.
Now, I did manage to regain my financial independence, and I was able to support both my children through school, through university, and there came a time when they left home and they were no longer financially dependent on me, and I remarried, and between myself and my new husband, we had a pretty good income, and I was able, for the first time ever, to start going into shops and just buying things because I like them. I was able to save up money for holidays. I was able to go out and socialize and be with my friends and do all the things I'd really dreamed about. What do you think happened? How do you think I felt with all this financial freedom? I felt so uncomfortable. It was absolutely excruciatingly painful for me because it was so far out of my norm, it just felt wrong. So the core belief that had triggered was that I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving of all this financial independence. And then I got made redundant again, and I start worrying about money. Oh, and suddenly I'm in familiar territory again. So when we're talking about working with money blocks, there are 3 different aspects that we need to address. The first one is the mind-body connection, so the emotions and the stress response. So whenever we have any emotions around money, so if it's anxiety and fear that we're feeling around money, it triggers an automatic response in our body. So who here has ever felt butterflies in their tummy? Okay, so that is an automatic mind-body response. The butterflies in the tummy come as a result of the thoughts that you're feeling. And that's the same with the emotions that are connected to money. It starts triggering off the automatic stress response if there is any fear or anxiety attached to it. So then the next thing we need to look at are some of the beliefs. So what are the stories that you used to hear as you were growing up? So quite a common one is money doesn't grow on trees. Or I heard the other day, money is the root of all evil. Or another quite common one is people like us don't have lots of money. So all of those stories that you heard as you were growing up, they kind of lay unconsciously in your mind, and they're driving you towards your own relationship with money. And then, of course, we've got some of the core belief stuff that is also playing unconsciously. So, and then the last thing is a traumatic root or a traumatic event from the past in relation to money. And this one, the last one, that really is the key to unlocking those blocks around money. Now, I'll give you an example of what might be a traumatic event from money, because when we talk about traumatic events in a emotional freedom kind of technique setting, it's not always the big trauma stuff that can cause the problems, because we are talking about trauma in the eyes of your child self, of your younger self. And what felt traumatic to you as a child, you might judge as an adult. It was like, well, why would I even get upset about that? But as a child, it might have been quite traumatic. So I'm going to give you an example. So imagine that you've got a neighbour, you've got an elderly neighbour. And as a child, let's call this elderly neighbour, let's call her old Mrs. Hubbard. So imagine that old Mrs. Hubbard lived next door to you, and you decided one day that you would go round and help her out and rake up some of the leaves in the garden, because you could see that, you know, her garden's looking a bit messy and that, you know, she's not able to clear up. So you go round, you offer to help. Old Mrs. Hubbard is so pleased with you that she gives you some money. She gives you a few pounds. And you're really, really proud of yourself, because this is the first time that you have ever gone out and earned any money. And you feel such pride at helping someone to do something and getting paid for it. So you go home really pleased and really excited, and you go home and you say, look, Mum, look what I've got. And Mum says, where did you get that from? And you explain that old Mrs. Hubbard gave you some money because you helped her out. And your mother, rather than sharing in your pride and your joy, bears down on you and says, shame on you. Shame on you for taking money from an elderly pensioner. You go and give it back right now. And all of a sudden, you've made a connection between making money, doing good, and feeling shame and guilt. Is that starting to make a bit of sense? So, the method that I use to release money blocks, it's the same method that I use no matter what blocks you might have. So, but for the sake of today, it's just in relation to money. One of the first things we have to do is really get quite specific and clear about the problem, because we've been avoiding this for far too long and we need to start looking at it. So once we've dug a bit deeper, I then use emotional freedom technique to release all of the emotional attachment to the blocks. So can I have a show of hands? Who's heard of emotional freedom technique tapping? So it's quite a few of you. But for those of you who haven't heard about it, it comes under the banner of energy psychology. I like to describe it as being a bit like acupuncture, but without needles. So instead of putting needles into the acupressure points, we just tap on the points to stimulate the meridian points. But at the same time, we talk about and we focus on the problem. Because what that then does, it starts sending a direct message to our stress response center in our brain saying, it's okay, you can calm down whenever you start thinking about money. So we're sending a new message rather than the automatic stress that we feel. Is giving us a new message that we can calm down. Because what tapping does, it actually switches off the stress response completely. There's been a lot of scientific research and studies done over the last few years, and one in particular measured the cortisol levels of someone before and after tapping. Now, if you are aware, cortisol is your stress hormone. It's the one that is slowly damaging your bodies and causing a lot of health problems, as well as the one that sets your heart rate pumping and gets all the adrenaline pumping. And this study showed that after just 15 minutes of tapping, the cortisol levels dropped 24%. And that was just after 15 minutes. And like I say, it reprograms that automatic response to beliefs and memory triggers. Okay, so why do we have to get so specific? Why do we have to get into the root of the pain? Well, as Louise Hay so lovingly said, if you want your house to be clean, you've got to see the dirt. So we are going to be having a look at some money goals, setting some money goals. Now, I was going to have some lovely worksheets for you to work through, but my printer broke just before and I couldn't, but hey-ho. What I will do, though, is if anyone completes my flyer, if you give me your email details, I will email you the worksheet after the event. So instead of writing it down, just imagine in your head or visualize in your head what you were currently earning monthly or annually. And if you're self-employed and you don't have a set figure, just give it a rough estimation of what you are earning either annually or monthly. And then what I want you to do is to write another figure down. What would you like to earn so that you could be comfortable, so that you have more than enough to pay the rent, to pay the mortgage, to pay your bills, to pay your food, buy clothes, save, go on holiday? If you don't know what that figure is, guess. Have a guess. Now what I want you to do is have a look at those two amounts, or imagine seeing them in your brain. Now, for some of you, there might be a huge gap in terms of what you're earning and now and what you would like to earn. How is it starting to make you feel? What are some of those emotions that are coming up for you right now? And where are you feeling those emotions in your body? Because trust me, that the mind-body connection can be really, really strong for some people. Now, I'll give you an example. For 18 months, I had this chronic chest pain. It felt like someone was squeezing my chest like that. And it would come and go, but it was there consistently every day for 18 months. I went to the doctors, I had an ECG, I was breathing into things to measure my lung capacity. The doctor said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, and yet I had this crushing pain. When I got into tapping, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to see what this pain's all about. It was actually connected to my anxiety around finances. And then when I did a bit more tapping, it wasn't just the anxiety around finances, it was the memory of what it was like when my first husband got us into so much debt. And when I started clearing that, the pain went, and it has never come back again. So where do you feel your emotions about money in your body? So now what I want you to do, take that figure of what you said you would like to earn and double it. This is going to be your new goal. And I can see already some people are like, what? So how's that making you feel? So for some, I know when I did this exercise, I was like, sharp intake of breath. How much do you believe you deserve that new amount? On a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is, yes, I believe I deserve it 100%. And 0 is, no, I do not deserve it. What are those thoughts that are coming up for you now? what's the automatic thoughts that are coming in? I can't earn that sort of money. People like us don't earn that. Who the hell do I think I am? So start naming some of those emotions that you are feeling in relation to that doubled goal. And are there any events from your past where that you can remember that remind you of those emotions? So do you have your own old Mother Hubbard story from the past that's driving your emotions around money? Don't worry too much if you can't think of anything at the moment. Are there any goal traumas related to money from the past? And what I mean by goal traumas is, have you set yourself a goal in the past and it might have been, I'm going to set up a new business and because I've got this brilliant idea and my partner's 100% behind me and I'm going to train to do it and I need finance, so I'm going to maybe raise some finance against the mortgage, and it's all gone wrong. And you might have lost your house, your relationship might have fallen apart as a result. So are there any traumas, goal traumas from the past that are driving the emotions around money?
If you're interested in speaking, exhibiting, or getting involved in the largest personal development expos in the world, contact us today at www.thebestyouexpo.com or send us an email to info@thebestyou.co.
Then what I want you to think about now, what do you really need to work on to clear this? What's the one thing that is really going to help you to shift those emotions? So what I would like to do now, if you're all up for it, is to take you through some tapping. So anyone who's starting to feel a bit anxious over all of those connections you're making, let's try a bit of tapping. Now, I know for some people, they can feel a bit self-conscious doing this, but if we all do it, then we can all look a bit silly and weird together. So before we get started, I'll just show you some of the tapping points. When I tap here, if it sounds like quite thunderous, do let me know. So we're going to start on the karate chop point here, or the side of the hand. And then we go to the eyebrow, which is just by the bridge in the nose and the beginning of the eyebrow point. Then we follow the eye socket round to the side of the eye, and then follow it round to under the eye. And then the next point is the nose, and then the chin, and then collarbone. I won't do the head one because it will just be too weird. And then we'll go back to the side of the hand. So those are the points that we're going to be doing. All you need to do is follow what I say and tap. So you tap and you repeat the words that I say. What I would like you to notice is any physical sensations you notice in your body as you're tapping. One of the common sensations is yawning. As we start to release the energy, we can start yawning quite a bit. Another thing that you might notice, gurgling noises in your stomach. And some people sometimes feel a little bit dizzy as well. And pay attention to any random thoughts that come up or any kind of memories that come up from the past, because that's giving you a clue as to where some of your money blocks are really lying. So let's get started. So before we really get into it, I just want you to take a few deep breaths. I want you to ground yourself into the present, into the here and now, feeling safe and feeling grounded. And then repeat the words that I say whilst tapping simultaneously on the point. So we start off here at the side of the hand. Even though I have all these money blocks, I honor myself and how I feel. Even though I have these money blocks, I honor myself and I accept how I feel. Even though I have these money blocks and I've got no idea where they came from, I accept myself and how I feel. Eyebrow, all these blocks around money. Side of the eye, all of these emotions that I feel when I set my money goals. Under the eyes, these feelings of sadness, these feelings of anger, these feelings of shame, these feelings of fear. Okay, under the nose, wearing me down, chin, draining my energy, collarbone, all of these blocks around money. Side of the hand, causing me tension in my body. Eyebrow point, who am I kidding? Side of the eye, it feels so impossible to reach these goals. Under the eye, I don't deserve to have any more money. Under the nose, I'm not worthy. Chin, people like us don't have lots of money. Collarbone, money is the root of all evil. Karate chop point, all of these stories and beliefs around money. Eyebrow point, all of these beliefs, are they really true? Side of the eye, I'm open to understanding where they came from. Under the eye, and I'm open to the possibility that these stories are not the truth. Under the nose, they've been holding me back for so many years. Chin, maybe it's time to let them go. Collarbone, maybe it's time to replace them with new stories and new beliefs. Side of the hand, with new and positive stories around money. Okay. Last round, eyebrow. I'm open to releasing past traumas around money. Side of the eye, I release these feelings of sadness, of anger, of shame and fear. And as I release these blocks around money, under the nose, I realize that money isn't evil. It's just an energy. Under the, chin, I could help so many more people. Collarbone, I am open to all the good that money can bring. Okay, and just take a nice pause and a deep breath. So, how are you feeling? Anyone feeling a little bit calmer? Or has it ramped up the anxiety a little bit? No? Tingling, that's quite normal. So sometimes you can feel tingling sensations. That's just a shift in the energy moving around the body. So that was just a very, very brief introduction to emotional freedom technique. Now, normally when I'm working one-to-one with someone, I would get really specific about uncovering those traumatic roots, the connections to money from your past. And then we would work for an hour to really clear it and really shift it. Okay, so now you have experienced what emotional freedom technique is like. Now that you have a little bit more awareness of what might be going on for you in connection to money blocks, what can you do next? Well, of course, you could do nothing, because you might have found that, well, you know what, this talk's been quite interesting, but it's this weird tapping thing's not for me, and that's absolutely fine. But if what I have spoken about today has resonated with you, and if you are feeling that, you know what, I really need to do something about this now, then I would encourage you to fill in on the back of my flyer just your details. I will send you a free video series which is introducing you to how to use tapping around money blocks. As an added bonus, you also get to have a free entry to my prize draw, which is a VIP package to Abundance. I did promise one person was going to win another package with me, a Going Deeper into Money Blocks, Your Pathway to Abundance program. So, if you have a look at the flyer on your seat, if anyone's got one with a red heart on it, then that means you've won the prize. That lovely lady there. So come and see me at stand 47B afterwards. I'll take your details. I'll let you know what you've won and how you can go about claiming it. So I think we may have just a couple of minutes. So if anyone's got any questions, I think there is a mic. Any questions from anyone? Yeah, this lady at the front here.
Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, suppose someone has lots of money blocks.
Sorry.
If someone has lots of money blocks.
Yeah. You might have to do a lot of tapping.
yeah. When does the tapping end? I mean, because I've got a few money blocks myself.
Yeah.
I have friends who have massive money blocks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just given where she's at, there's just no way that she can afford to have a lot of one-to-one kind of treatment.
Okay.
Do you offer workshops or anything?
So one of my paid for packages is it's a series of 5 videos where you can go deeper into specific issues around saving, around debt, around income, around money goals, around what I like to call painful money, that money that comes at a price. And that's at a very affordable price. So if you want to find out more, come and see me at stand 47B and I can give you more information. So I think we are out of time now. Thank you so much for participating and enjoy the rest of the expo. Thank you.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.